Hello everybody, you're very welcome back to Law Hero. My name is Jen and I make videos about the law. And as you can see, if you've clicked into this video, this is not directly about law, but it does touch on a number of interesting areas that apply to anyone who's a professional or also people who are just kind of interested about the sex economy, because it's not really an area of business we talk about a lot, or we like to talk about a lot, simply because of its intimacy. In Ireland, I know, for example, not for example, I just know by observation, if you see people with like Anne Summers or Victoria's Secret bags, they're always like hiding them, whatever. You don't really see them often, and it's because of this background in Ireland, this kind of covert area of the sex trade that people don't like to talk about. But the problem is that behind closed doors, we are all engaging in the sex trade in some form of another. I would be very surprised if any of my viewers are not, and that's just being candid about it. So my whole thing is, just like mental health, why are we not talking about it when it is an epidemic? And this whole conversation today was sparked by a LinkedIn post, a LinkedIn CV update, whereby somebody, and I will go through it in a minute, a lady, a New Yorker, she's actually Brazilian but she lives in New York, included on her LinkedIn that she spent a year as a sex worker during the pandemic via OnlyFans. She also made a post of why she included the sex work as part of her LinkedIn. I'm going to put up all the screenshots here. So she said, I left an in-house job with fancy benefits 2 weeks ago, and the reason I could do that was sex work. I had just enough saved from selling and engaging my image that I could ask myself if I was happy. I wasn't. Yeah, the few grand I'd stashed up over time helped, but the biggest reason I could walk away is because sex work shows me what my power can do when I own it intentionally. Very interesting what she's saying here. I charge exorbitant amounts. I have no problem taking rejections from those that don't want to pay it, because I charge what emotional labour is required into the fee. I set and hold boundaries and engage only in ways that are safe, playful and abundant for me. I don't waste my time with anything less. I stopped pitching and negotiating. I have nothing to prove. I've done the work up front to make my value evident. Why is this different from any other client work? The answer I come to again and again is that it isn't. So now it's up on my LinkedIn, because not only is my new standard for incoming creative clients that they be at least half as respectful, generous and grateful as the John Does online, but that anyone who I partner with celebrates and accepts every experience as one I will inevitably bring with me into a project. They don't have to understand it, but they better respect the hell out of it. Now, if you look into her background, you can see that she is very heavily invested in talking about sex, in, you know, women being empowered as sexual beings. She's very much a feminist, a very like social warrior type. So I take what she's saying with a grain of salt, contextualize against the type of personality she has. As in, this isn't somebody who did a law degree, trained as a lawyer. You know, it's somebody who's had a mishmash career and is involved in like online content. So they're very much in that sphere. That being said, that doesn't take away from the courage it takes to post something like this. And I say courage because not a lot of people admit to this type of work, especially in a professional forum like LinkedIn. And my question today is it or is it not legitimate to include this as part of your CV? Some people would think I'm crazy for even entertaining this, but I always say there's two sides to the coin, and that's why I wear two sides to the coin around my neck. You cannot just dismiss something without investigating its merits, when we know that covertly people are engaging in OnlyFans. People are watching porn all the time. Some people watch porn at work. I'm sorry, employers, but I hate to break it to you. Some people are watching sex on your time. So we might as well discuss it and bring it, you know, into the open forum that it should be brought in. So in order to educate myself about OnlyFans, I read some research, some master's level research done by two Dutch students, criminal law masters, and I also read some online articles which obviously aren't scholarly articles, but some are in favor of OnlyFans and others are not in favor of OnlyFans. So the first thing I'm going to look at a definition of what OnlyFans is, because I was only familiar with it on YouTube, but I didn't really understand how the economy behind it worked. So basically it's a subscription-based social media platform which allows performers to provide content for their followers or fans. A range of services are provided on the website, ranging from cooking tutorials to fitness workouts, in contrast to other social media platforms such as Instagram's no nipple policy. I didn't know about that. The liberal policy of OnlyFans has paved the way for emancipative adult content. Sexually explicit content and live streams are offered by sex workers via subscription. And this is the interesting thing, is that if you are on OnlyFans, as in if you are a content provider on OnlyFans, you are considered a sex worker, for example under Dutch law, and the people who are consuming it are considered sexual consumers. Access to more exclusive content and intimate communication promising greater levels of interaction is monetized by one-off tips. So OnlyFans is an alternative to mainstream porn, which would be seen as passive, and what it basically does is provide the user with some intimate contact with somebody that they have to pay for. And obviously because of the pandemic, OnlyFans has become very popular, and also there's been some noteworthy like Disney stars who joined the platform and they've increased the popularity. The question is though, because of your online footprint and because of the stigma attached to being a sex worker in the future, like, is it a wise decision for people to, well, not only enter it as somebody who wants to be maybe a professional later on, but in terms of your LinkedIn profile, should it be included? So OnlyFans offers content creators the ability of setting the price of their provided services on monthly subscription rates, which are around between €4 and €40, and that'll allow you a private feed, exclusive photos and videos, and the option to request private media. And interestingly, the platform takes 20% of their revenue to cover administrative costs, and that's a massive chunk of your income. So the next thing we're going to look at is the social stigma around sex workers, and this feeds into the inclusion of it on your LinkedIn and indeed on your CV, and Van Hoven Jarek actually look into this. And the problem, a lot of the time, the problem with the social media is that you can scrape them, which means you can take the content and use it to exploit people, just like you would revenge porn. And because this is far more overt, that it's much easier to manipulate people. So the authors argue that the only way to move away from the stigma is to challenge the negative perceptions of sex workers that exist today. And this has actually been done through a number of interesting psychological analysis of porn stars right through the 80s and 90s, called the damaged goods theory, which was actually disproved. So the damaged good theory was basically that if you're a porn star, you're more likely to be a drug taker, to have been emotionally or physically abused as a child, or to have low self-esteem. And when they actually did the evaluation of the porn stars, they found that this was untrue. A lot of the time, people's perception is that people who go into porn are lazy, or they're trying to get out of doing mainstream work. But sometimes these people choose it because of, like the lady said on LinkedIn, the extortionate rates they can charge for something they actually enjoy doing. Of course, it would be remiss of me not to talk about some of the dangers of these online sites. And from what I can see, the biggest problem with all of this is exploitation of minors, and child pornography. That seems to me to be the biggest problem. And there was an OnlyFans leak where a lot of underage girls had their pictures taken. And of course, the researchers in the Dutch paper are quite liberal, and they argue that commercial sex work online and offline should be legitimized, just like prostitution, for example, is in the Netherlands. And you know, in the Netherlands they have a policy that anything that is sent underground is a public failure. I find that a really interesting take. I would have to say I agree with it. I lived in Frankfurt where also there was prostitution, and I have to say it seemed to me as an outsider a much safer way if you do choose this type of work, because at the end of the day it is a choice. A lot of people think it's, as I said, people who are very poor, people who are very lazy, but you will see, as that lady said on LinkedIn, it was an active choice to supplement her income, and they have found the majority of people on OnlyFans are doing it to supplement their income. And if you look at the market, supply and demand, there is massive demand for this type of content. So that means that there is a market there, and inadvertently anybody who is an OnlyFans subscription or watches porn is supporting the sex workers. So if you covertly support sex work, would you not be in favor of legitimizing it in the real world, as in the offline world? And this is the big question. I think, in conclusion, OnlyFans transformed the sex market during the pandemic. It has changed the way in which explicit content makes its way to people, and it also makes it more intimate, albeit not physical. And also OnlyFans has showed that people are shying away from mainstream porn, and they're also looking for like an authentic and intimate relationship with a sex worker, which shows a relationship of trust. It's based on you're paying for it, but it also shows a relationship of trust between the consumer and the seller. That to include it as part of your LinkedIn profile is a very brave step, because we have not moved out of the era of social stigmatization of sex workers, unlike, for example, other European cities. And I would say that at a European level, if there was some type of member state protection for these people, and kind of a top-down message that it is not just people who are being exploited, which is the common belief, go on these sites. A lot of the time it's very normal people, sometimes people who don't even need the money, they just know that they would do well. But I think as well that there needs to be some type of support for people who go into this type of work. Just like there is for solicitors, like we have law care, for example. I think there should be sex worker care for people who go into that type of work, because it has to be recognized as business. It is an industry that is multi-million-dollar, and to ignore it only exacerbates the problem. I'll read this final article, which is against OnlyFans. So it's from Mary Harrington on Unheard, and she says, what's wrong with trading youth and beauty for resources? If you've got it, why not make use of it? In the digital age, you're an idiot if you're satisfied with posting thirst traps on Instagram and not monetizing your Sims on OnlyFans. And that is a good point. The market dictates if you can make money on an online platform like OnlyFans, why not? This is all backed up by a popular understanding of the sexes borrowed from evolutionary psychology, in which men compete for the opportunity to spread their DNA and women compete to attract the man with the best chance of supporting children within an overall sexual marketplace. The author concludes that OnlyFans virtualizes and monetizes the complex and shifting field of desire, longing and human connection in a form perfect for the lockdown era social landscape of atomization, loneliness and unemployment. It's a perfect dating marketplace reproducing the most asymmetrically competitive transaction elements of male and female desire without any need for mutuality, generosity or crucially human touch. It's a 21st century vision of love. So now we know why it has been successful, and now we know what it is, and now we know that sex work can be argued to be work. Therefore, can we include it in our LinkedIn profile if we have been privy to such work? My estimation is that Ireland certainly isn't there yet. Okay, boomer. It's a cultural shift. It's a social shift. It has only happened in very progressive places. As I said, the Netherlands is a great example, but it works very well there. I would like to see structure around it, because at the moment it is underground. I think if there was social structure around sex work, then including it as part of your CV would make more sense. But I think because of the lack of social structure at the moment, there is no buy-in, and therefore in terms of what you bring as an employee, it's not legitimized. I think legitimacy only comes with some kind of positive social impact, but socially it is stigmatized at the moment. Therefore you would be unwise to include it as part of your LinkedIn profile. That's my assessment of it. My personal view is that sex work is legitimate work. You can hate me for saying that, but it is my view, and I think people are entitled to make their own choices, just like people are entitled to make money how they wish if it is legal. That is my final word on it. Thank you very much for watching. I enjoyed pushing myself to make this video and do something a little bit left of center. I'll see you in the next one.